Now, honey, before I tell you how I took down the man who stole almost 40 years of my life, let me paint you a picture. Here I am, sitting in a penthouse that overlooks Lake Michigan, sipping 20-year-old wine that costs more than my old monthly mortgage, wearing Chanel that still has the tags on it. And 6 months ago? 6 months ago, I had $3,000 to my name and a pot roast splattered across a marble floor. That Tuesday morning, October 15th, 2024, I thought the biggest surprise would be my husband Glenn's face when I showed up at his fancy law firm with his favorite meal. Turns out, sugar, I was the one about to get surprised. Because when that young receptionist looked at me like I was a ghost and whispered, "Ma'am, his wife just went upstairs 10 minutes ago," my whole world exploded like a firecracker on the 4th of July. But here's what Glenn and his plastic Barbie wife didn't know. This 63-year-old grandma grew up on the south side of Chicago, and we don't just get mad, we get even. And baby, when I got even, I got everything. So buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you will restore your faith in karma, justice, and the power of a woman who's had enough. And if you like watching entitled men get exactly what they deserve, you better hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is about to take you on a ride that'll leave you breathless. Let me set the scene properly. That October morning was crisp and beautiful, the kind of Chicago autumn day that makes you believe in new beginnings. I'd spent 3 hours making Glenn's award-winning pot roast, the one with my secret horseradish kick that won first place at the Illinois State Fair back in '98. Packed it in my grandmother's wicker basket, put on my nicest cardigan, and headed downtown to Henderson and Associates law firm on Michigan Avenue, feeling like a giddy schoolgirl planning a surprise. The lobby was something out of a movie. Marble floors so shiny you could see a heaven in them. Crystal chandeliers dripping like frozen diamonds. I walked up to the reception desk where a young woman named Avery sat and announced with my brightest smile, "I'm here for Glenn Gardner." That girl's face went from professional pleasant to morgue white in half a heartbeat. "I'm sorry," she stammered, glancing nervously at the security guard. "Who are you?" I laughed, actually laughed, thinking she was new. "Paula Gardner, his wife, of almost 40 years. And that's when she said the words that would change everything. "Ma'am, his wife just went upstairs 10 minutes ago with his favorite meal." The basket hit that marble floor like a bomb going off. Pot roast everywhere. Horseradish cream splattered across those expensive floors like a crime scene. And me? I ran. This 63-year-old woman in sensible pumps ran to that elevator like her life depended on it, because in a way, it did. 23rd floor, corner office. I didn't knock, didn't pause, just burst through that mahogany door like the FBI on a raid. And there she was. A woman, maybe 40-something, wearing my lavender Talbot's cardigan, the one Glenn bought me last Christmas, 2023. She was setting out food, laughing at something Glenn said, touching his arm the way I touch his arm. But here's where your blood should run cold, honey. She had my face. Not similar, not kinda sorta. She looked like me 20 years ago. Same auburn hair, same height, even wearing my stolen pearl earrings from 3 months back. "Paula!" Glenn stood up, confusion spreading across his face like spilled wine. "What in God's name are you doing here?" "What am I doing? Who is she?" The woman turned slowly, deliberately, like a pageant queen making her entrance. And when she smiled, it was the cruelest thing I'd ever seen.
Hello, Paula, she purred. I'm Vivian Gardner, Glenn's wife, his real wife. We've been married for 14 years. I swear to you, my heart stopped beating. Just stopped. That's impossible. I'm his wife. She laughed, this tinkling, musical sound that made me want to slap her into next Tuesday. Are you, though? Tell me something, Paula. When's the last time you actually saw your marriage certificate? When's the last time you filed taxes jointly? Ever wonder why Glenn always handled the paperwork? Glenn always kept the fireproof box with our documents locked, said he'd handle the paperwork. I let him. Lord help me, I let him. I looked at Glenn, my husband since I was Paula Davies, the father of my children, the man I'd built my entire life around. And his face, oh, his face told me everything I needed to know. Glenn, I whispered, grabbing his desk to keep from falling, tell her she's lying. Silence. Deafening, soul-crushing silence. Vivian opened her designer purse, probably bought with my money, and pulled out a marriage certificate, waving it like a victory flag. Glenn and I got married in Las Vegas in 2010, legal, binding, registered with the state of Nevada. She looked me up and down like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. You, sweetheart, you've been his long-term girlfriend playing house. Nothing legal, nothing binding, just convenient. The room tilted, my vision blurred. Almost 40 years. My son Kevin, my daughter Denise, my grandson Tommy, our house, our life, all of it built on quicksand. I loved you, I breathed, tears burning tracks down my cheeks, and I gave you everything. And I'm grateful, Paula, but Vivian's right. Legally, you're nobody. Nobody. After almost 40 years, I was nobody. Vivian settled into Glenn's chair like a queen on her throne. Now here's the fun part, Paula. That house you think is yours? Deed's in my name. Has been for 5 years. That car you drive? Registered to me. That joint bank account you've been contributing your teacher's pension to every single month? She paused for dramatic effect. Glenn's been draining it for years. You've got maybe $3,000 left out of the $140,000 you'd saved. My legs gave out. I collapsed into the leather guest chair, my whole world crumbling like century-old brick. Everything I'd worked for, every penny I'd saved from my teaching salary, gone. But wait, she leaned forward, eyes gleaming with malicious joy. Want to know the real kicker? Want to know why Glenn kept you around all these years? Stop, Vivian, Glenn warned, but she ignored him. See this? She pulled out her phone, showing me documents. This is the Gardner Family Trust, worth $8.7 million, left at Glenn by his daddy with one teensy condition. He had to remain married to his original wife, Paula Davies, for at least 40 years, or the money goes to charity. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what I was hearing. Daddy Gardner died not knowing about me, and those trust lawyers, they just needed annual proof of cohabitation, photos, utility bills, Christmas cards, easy enough to fake when you're actually living with someone. She turned to Glenn with a smile that made my stomach turn. 4 more months, baby, and that money is ours. 40 years complete. The truth crashed over me like a tsunami. Glenn hadn't loved me. He'd used me. For almost 40 years, I'd been nothing but a human prop in his scheme to steal $8 million from his own father's estate. You used me, I whispered, my voice breaking. For money.
Glenn finally met my eyes, and what I saw there, or rather, what I didn't see, destroyed me. No remorse, no guilt, nothing. It was never personal, Paula. Just business. Just business. Almost 40 years of my life. Just business. Actually, Vivian added, clearly unable to resist twisting the knife deeper, those weekend business trips to Milwaukee, that's where our real family lives. Kelsey's 17, Brady's 14. Beautiful kids. They call me Mom. And you, they call you Dad's charity project. I had half-siblings to my children. Glenn had a whole other family, a whole other life, and I'd been too stupid, too trustin', too naive to see it. The security guard appeared in the doorway then, and I thought, this is it. This is where they throw me out like garbage. But something in his expression was different. He wasn't looking at Vivian, he was looking at me. And in his eyes, I saw something unexpected. Recognition and anger on my behalf. "Mrs. Gardner," he said quietly, and I noticed he was looking at me, not Vivian. "The real Mrs. Gardner? You need to see something. Right now." Now, sugar, this is where the story gets interesting. Because that security guard, Marcus Hayes, 6'2", former Chicago PD with the kind eyes and a jaw that could cut glass, he led me out of that office while Vivian and Glenn scrambled to figure out damage control. I could hear them arguing as Marcus guided me to the elevator. "You told me she'd never find out," Vivian hissed. "How was I supposed to know she'd show up?" Glenn shot back. The elevator doors closed on their bickering, and Marcus turned to me. "Mrs. Gardner, I need you to trust me for about 10 minutes. Can you do that?" I nodded, too numb to speak, too shattered to argue. He took me to the building security office, a small room filled with monitors showing every angle of that fancy law firm. "My name's Marcus Hayes," he said, pulling out a chair for me. "Retired Chicago PD, been security here for 3 years. And Mrs. Gardner, I've been watching your husband for 6 months." That got my attention. Watching him? My sister, Claire, Marcus' jaw tightened, got scammed by a bigamist, lost everything. Her house, her savings. 23 years she gave that man, and he had 3 other families. She ended up homeless at 57. He pulled out a USB drive. So when I started noticing 2 different women signing in as Mrs. Gardner, I paid attention. When I heard conversations in the elevator about handling the old wife, I recorded them. And when I saw financial documents left carelessly on desks during late-night office cleanings, I photographed them. He plugged the USB into his computer, and my jaw dropped. Security footage, visitor logs, audio recordings, bank statements, email screenshots, everything. "Marcus," I breathed, "this is evidence," he finished. "Admissible evidence. Because in Illinois, one-party consent is legal for recordings, and I'm always that one party in the elevator." He clicked through files showing me everything. Glenn and Vivian kissing in the parking garage, multiple dates, multiple angles, Vivian signing in as Mrs. Gardner 47 times in the past year, audio of them discussing me like I was a problem to be solved. But the worst, the absolute worst, was the video from 4 months ago, Glenn and Vivian in the parking garage. He turned up the volume. "After the trust clears, we move Vivian into the house. Paula can go to Shady Oaks." "The memory care facility?" Vivian asked. "Early onset dementia. Doctor's already prepared to testify she's been showing signs. No one will question it." "She's not actually sick, Glenn." "Who's gonna believe a confused old woman over 2 respectable witnesses and a doctor's diagnosis?" I watched myself on that screen. Watched my whole future being planned like I was a piece of furniture to be stored. And then Vivian, said something that made my blood freeze. "What about the life insurance?" "$2 million," Glenn replied casually. "Once she's in the facility, medication interactions are so common, so tragic, so convenient." Marcus stopped the video. "Mrs. Gardner, they were planning to kill you." The words hung in the air like poison gas. My husband, since I was Paula Davies, the man I'd cooked for, cleaned for, loved with every fiber of my being, was planning to murder me for insurance money. "There's more," Marcus said grimly. He pulled up text messages. Messages between Glenn and my own daughter, Denise. "Denise, Mom's getting suspicious about the bank account. Glenn, handle it. Tell her she's confused, forgetful. Make her doubt herself." "Denise, Dad, I feel bad lying to her." "Glenn, you want that $500,000 or not? 4 more months, Denise. Then you get your cut and your mother gets proper care." My daughter, my own daughter, in on it, being paid to gaslight me. Denise was the care coordinator in Glenn's plan, day-to-day manipulation, while Kevin's job was simply to keep his distance. "Kevin, too," Marcus said quietly, showing me more texts. Glenn had paid my son $50,000 to stay away from me, to not visit, to not answer my calls, all part of isolating me so I'd have no one to turn to when they made their move. I sat there in that security office, staring at evidence of the most complete betrayal imaginable. My husband, my children, everyone I'd loved and trusted, all of them had sold me out for money. "Why are you showing me this?" I whispered. "Why are you helping me?" Marcus pulled up a chair, sat across from me. "Because my sister Claire, she didn't have someone to help her. She ended up living in her car, working at 60 years old as a Walmart greeter. She died last year. Heart attack. Alone." His voice cracked. "I couldn't save her. But Mrs. Gardner, I can help you." He pulled out a business card. "Patricia Monroe, family law attorney. I don't lose." "That's my other sister," Marcus said. "After what happened to Claire, Patricia went to law school. Now she specializes in destroying men like your husband, and she works pro bono for cases like yours, especially when there's this much evidence." I looked at that card, looked at the USB drive full of evidence, looked at Marcus's kind, fierce eyes, and something inside me, something I didn't even know existed, woke up. It wasn't sadness anymore. It wasn't heartbreak. It was rage. Pure, cold, calculating rage. "What do I need to do?" I asked, my voice steady for the first time since walking into Glenn's office. Marcus smiled. "First, we document everything. Then, we let Glenn think he's winning, while we build a case that'll bury him so deep he'll need a map to find hell." My phone buzzed then. Text from Glenn. "Paula, come back upstairs. Let's talk about your future. I'm prepared to offer you $50,000 and a rental apartment if you leave quietly. This is your only chance. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I stared at that text. $50,000. For almost 40 years of my life? For my house, my savings, my future, my dignity? $50,000 to disappear quietly while he collected $8 million? I looked up at Marcus, and slowly, deliberately, I smiled.
"Marcus, honey," I said, my voice sweet as poisoned honey, "how good are you at teaching an old dog new tricks?" His grin could have lit up the entire Chicago skyline.
Mrs. Gardner, something tells me you're about to become an excellent student. Now let me tell you about the most satisfying week of my life. While Glenn and Vivian thought I'd crawled away to lick my wounds, I was busy becoming someone they'd never seen coming. Marcus helped me rent a modest apartment, used his savings as the deposit, bless his heart. I met with Patricia Monroe, and that woman, she's 5'0" of pure legal hellfire in designer heels. She took one look at Marcus's evidence and actually laughed. "Oh, this is good," she said, spreading documents across her conference table. "Paula, your husband didn't just commit fraud. He committed elder financial exploitation, which in Illinois is a Class 2 felony. He's looking at 3 to 7 years, minimum. But I was never legally married to him. Vivian showed me their marriage certificate." Patricia's smile was downright wolfish. "Let me ask you something. Did you and Glenn ever live in Iowa?" "Yes, 1985 to 1988. Why?" "Because Iowa recognizes common law marriage, and if you filed taxes jointly, had joint accounts, and presented yourselves as married during those years," she tapped a stack of forms, "then you were legally married, which makes Glenn's Vegas wedding to Vivian bigamy." My mouth fell open. "Are you serious?" "As a heart attack. We'll need to prove the Iowa elements with evidence. Joint returns, utility bills, affidavits from neighbors. No certificate exists for common law, but your proof can be ironclad. And once we prove you're the legal wife, Vivian's marriage is void." "Which means," Patricia's grin widened, "Glenn's about to lose everything." "The trust," I breathed. "Oh, it gets better. The trust has 2 triggers. Miss the 40-year mark and it diverts to charity. Commit fraud or moral turpitude and it forfeits to the wrong spouse. Glenn tripped the second trigger." I sat back, my mind reeling. "How much are we talking about?" Patricia calculated on her laptop. "Conservatively, 15 to 20 million when it's all over. Plus, Glenn goes to prison. Plus, Vivian goes to federal prison. Turns out, she's been collecting military spousal benefits from her first husband. That's federal fraud." "Her first husband?" "Oh, yes. Vivian Torres Gardner is still legally married to Rick Torres, a Marine. She never finalized her divorce but kept collecting his benefits. That's a federal crime. The FBI's been looking for evidence to build a case. We're about to gift wrap it for 'em." This was too much, too good. I felt dizzy. "So, what's my part in this?" Patricia leaned forward. "You play confused, weak, broken. Make Glenn think he's won. Sign whatever he gives you. We'll have you declared competent by 3 doctors first, making any coerced documents void. Let him get comfortable. And then," she snapped her fingers, "we strike." So that's what I did, honey. For 1 week, I became the best actress Chicago ever saw. I called Glenn crying, asking for help with bills. I showed up at his office looking disheveled and confused. I signed papers he put in front of me with shaking hands. I played the role of helpless old woman so well, I almost convinced myself. And Glenn, he ate it up like candy. "He's completely lost it," I heard him tell Vivian on Marcus's recordings. "This is going to be easier than we thought. But the piece de resistance, the moment that still makes me cackle, I invited Vivian to lunch."
Called her up, all tearful and apologetic. "I just want to move forward with dignity, woman to woman. Can we talk?" She agreed immediately. Probably thought she'd rub my face in her victory one more time. We met at an expensive restaurant in Gold Coast. I wore my best dress. She showed up dripping in jewelry. My jewelry, bought with my pension money. "Paula," she said with fake sympathy, "I'm glad you called. This must be so hard for you." "I just want Glenn to be happy," I said.
playing my part perfectly. If that's with you, I can accept it. I just need help figuring out where to go, what to do. She relaxed, getting cocky. You know what, Paula? I actually feel sorry for you. Almost 40 years wasted on a man who never loved you. That must hurt. I took a sip of water to hide my smile. Did he ever love me, even at the beginning? Vivian leaned in, her voice dripping with cruelty. Between us girls, no. He told me about meeting you, said you were useful, gullible, convenient. He needed someone to play house with until his daddy died. You were just there. My hand shook around my glass, but not from sadness, from rage I was barely containing. And your children with Glenn, do they know about me? She actually laughed. Oh, honey, they think you're hilarious. Grandpa's practice wife, Kelsey calls you. She even made a TikTok about it. Got 50,000 likes. That's when I dropped the act. That's fascinating, Vivian, I said, my voice suddenly calm and cold. Tell me, does your husband, Rick, know about that TikTok? Her face went white as fresh snow. What? Rick Torres married you in 2008. Still legally married to you, actually. Still collecting military spousal benefits in your name. That's federal fraud, sugar. A woman stood up from the table next to us. FBI agent Karen Walsh, badge already out. Vivian Torres Gardner, you're under investigation for federal benefits fraud and bigamy across state lines. The look on Vivian's face, pure shock, pure terror. I'll treasure it until the day I die. You bitch, she screamed, lunging across the table. Agent Walsh restrained her while I stood up, collected my purse, and looked down at this woman who'd tried to steal my life. I'm not a bitch, honey. I'm a 63-year-old woman who survived the south side of Chicago, raised 2 ungrateful children, and put up with almost 40 years of lies. You picked the wrong grandma to mess with. As they led Vivian away in handcuffs, my phone buzzed. Text from Patricia. Glenn just got served. 3 squad cars at his office. It's happening. I walked out of that restaurant, got into Marcus's car, and we drove straight to Henderson and Associates law firm because, honey, I wasn't missing this show for anything. The lobby of Henderson and Associates was pure chaos when we arrived. Squad cars outside, partners standing around looking shock-shelled. And there, in the middle of that beautiful marble floor where my pot roast had splattered a week ago, stood Glenn Gardner in handcuffs. I walked in just as the detective was reading his rights. Glenn Gardner, you're under arrest for elder financial exploitation, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit murder. Glenn's eyes found mine across that lobby, and the look on his face, the shock, the disbelief, and the dawning horror, it was better than Christmas morning. Paula, he said, but I held up one finger. You know what, Glenn? You don't get to say my name. Not anymore.
Patricia Monroe strode in behind me, heels clicking like a countdown to Judgment Day. She was carrying files that looked thick enough to choke a horse. Detectives, you'll want to see these, she announced, handing over documents. Bank records showing systematic theft from Mrs. Gardner's accounts, forged signatures on property deeds, recorded conversations planning to commit Mrs. Gardner to memory care against her will, and discussing life insurance payouts. Text messages with his daughter coordinating the gaslighting of her own mother. And my personal favorite? She pulled out a paper with a flourish. Evidentiary proof of an Iowa common law marriage, joint tax returns, utility bills, affidavits from neighbors, and the 1986 Des Moines landlord, valid and binding. You could have heard a pin drop in that lobby. Every lawyer, every client, every receptionist, all of them staring. This is ridiculous, Glenn shouted. I didn't do anything illegal. Really? Patricia's voice could have cut diamonds. So that $2 million life insurance policy you took out on Paula 6 months ago, listing Vivian as a beneficiary, that's legal?
combined with recorded conversations about medication interactions once you got her into memory care. The DA's calling it conspiracy to commit murder." Glenn's face went from red to gray. We were just planning for the future. The future where Paula was dead." Patricia turned to the detectives. "Everything you need is in this file, including evidence of embezzlement from firm client accounts. Mr. Gardner's been stealing to fund his double life. The Illinois Bar Association's already opened an investigation." That's when Theodore Crane, Glenn's managing partner, stepped forward. The man looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "Ted, tell me this isn't true." "Ted, come on. We've known each other 20 years. 20 years. And you've been running a con this whole time, stealing from clients? From your wife?" He turned to security. "Escort Mr. Gardner out. He's fired, permanently." They led Glenn through that lobby in handcuffs, past colleagues who'd respected him, clients who trusted him, past Avery, the receptionist who was filming the whole thing on her phone. That video got 9 million views in 24 hours, by the way. But we weren't done. Oh no, honey. We were just getting started. Patricia had arranged for my children to be invited to her office. When Denise and Kevin walked in and saw me sitting there with a lawyer, their faces told me everything. "Mom, what's going on?" "What's going on," Patricia said coldly, "is that your mother could press charges against both of you. Conspiracy to commit elder abuse, fraud, financial exploitation. You'd each face up to 5 years in prison." Kevin's face went white. "Mom, please, Dad said you'd be taken care of." "Taken care of?" My voice came out harder than I'd ever heard it. "Denise, you took $500,000 to gaslight your own mother. And Kevin, you took $50,000 to stay away from me, to ignore my calls, to make me feel like I was losing my mind." Denise was crying now. "We didn't think it was that serious. Dad said it was just paperwork, just complicated legal stuff." "He said I had early onset dementia." I stood up, and they both flinched. "He was planning to lock me up and kill me for insurance money. And you, too, helped him do it." The room went silent except for Denise's sobbing. Patricia looked at me. "It's your call, Paula. We have enough evidence to prosecute." I looked at my children, really looked at them, saw their father in their entitled, selfish faces, saw how easily they'd sold out their own mother for money.
"No charges," I said finally. "Mom, thank you. I'm not finished." I stepped back, away from her touch. "No charges, but you're both out of my will, out of my life. My grandson, Tommy, he's innocent. He gets his college fund. But you two?" I moved toward the door. "You chose your father's money over your own mother. You chose greed over love. So now you get nothing. Not my money, not my forgiveness. Nothing." "Mom, please," Kevin begged. "My name is Paula Gardner, and you don't get to call me Mom anymore." I walked out and didn't look back. Marcus was waiting in the hallway, and he just pulled me into a hug while I cried. Not for them, but for the children they used to be before Glenn corrupted them. But the best part, the absolute best part, came 2 weeks later in court, the trust hearing. Glenn's lawyer argued that since I was never legally married, I had no claim to the Gardner family trust. Patricia stood up, and I swear the temperature in that courtroom dropped 10 degrees. "Your Honor, Exhibit A, evidentiary proof of an Iowa common law marriage, joint returns for 1985 to 1988, utility bills, affidavits from neighbors, and the 1986 Des Moines landlord, valid and binding. Exhibit B, 42 years of joint tax returns filed as married thereafter. Illinois recognizes out-of-state common law marriages. Mrs. Paula Gardner is the legal wife." "And Mr. Gardner's second marriage?" the judge asked. "Bigamy, Your Honor. Ms. Torres was still married to her first husband. That marriage is void." The trust lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, Even if Mrs. Gardner is the legal wife, Mr. Gardner is the beneficiary of. Actually, Patricia interrupted, the trust contains two triggers. If he fails the 40-year condition, the corpus diverts to charity. If he commits fraud, criminal activity, or moral turpitude, it forfeits to the wronged spouse. Mr. Gardner has been convicted of fraud, theft, and elder exploitation. The morality clause is triggered. The trust goes to Mrs. Gardner. The judge looked at Glenn. Mr. Gardner, your father left this trust to a man of integrity. You're not that man. He banged his gavel. $8.7 million awarded to Paula Gardner. Glenn's scream of rage echoed through that courtroom. No, that's my money. My father left it to me. Your father, the judge said coldly, left it to someone who would honor his marriage. Bailiff, remove him. And they did. Dragged him out of that courtroom screaming while I sat there, stunned, victorious, and finally free. 5 months later, I got a phone call that changed everything again. Catherine Gardner, Glenn's mother, 82 years old and sharp as a tack, asked to meet me. We met at a tea room in Bold Coast, expensive, elegant, the kind of place Glenn used to take Vivian while I was home eating leftovers. You probably hate me, she said as I sat down. I don't know you well enough to hate you. She smiled sadly. Fair, but Paula, I know you. I've known about you for years, and I've known what my son was doing. My blood ran cold. You knew? Glenn Sr. knew too. He hired a private investigator 6 months before he died. Found out about Vivian, the double life, all of it. She slid a document across the table. Another trust. Bigger. Older. This is what my husband actually wanted you to have. I stared at the papers. A second trust. $47 million. Properties in 5 states. Stocks, bonds, investments.
The $8 million was a test, Catherine explained. Glenn Sr. wrote in his notes, if my son honors his marriage and treats Paula with respect, he gets this money and I'll know I raised him right. If it doesn't, Paula gets it. And if Paula fights back and wins, she gets everything because she'll have proven she's stronger than he ever was. He set up his own son, I whispered. He gave his son a choice. Glenn chose wrong. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. I should have warned you years ago. I saw how he treated you, the coldness, the disrespect. But I was a coward. I told myself it wasn't my place. I'm so sorry, Paula. I took her hand. This woman, this mother who'd raised a monster but had the strength to admit it. You're telling me now that counts. There's one condition, Catherine said. My husband wanted you to use some of this to help other women, women who've been exploited, stolen from, abused. He wanted you to start a foundation. I thought about Claire, Marcus's sister, about the countless other women like me who never got justice. I'll do it. I'll do it right. 6 months later, I stood in front of a restored Chicago brownstone. The sign above the door read, the Paula Gardner Foundation for Financial Justice. Press everywhere, cameras, supporters, Marcus beside me as Director of Security, Patricia as Chief Legal Counsel. This foundation, I told the crowd, helps women over 50 who've been financially exploited by partners. Free legal services, financial counseling, housing, support, because no woman should face what I faced alone. Our first grant paid a motel month for a 59-year-old bookkeeper while Patricia froze her husband's accounts and clawed back an IRA. We don't leave our ladies on the curb with a prayer and a pamphlet. We walk them back to their lives. A reporter asked, what happened to Glenn Gardner? He's serving 7 years for elder exploitation. He'll be 73 when it gets out. No law license, no money, no family, nothing. I paused. And every month, per court order, he gets a statement showing exactly how much money I have, the $47 million, the properties, the foundation's recoveries, all of it, just so he never forgets what he lost. And Vivian? 4 years federal prison for benefits fraud. Her kids went to live with her ex-husband, Rick, who had no idea she'd remarried. He got full custody. What about your children? I took a breath. This part still hurt. Denise and Kevin made their choices. They chose greed over family. Actions have consequences. We don't speak. I softened slightly. But my grandson Tommy visits every weekend. He's 8 now, smart as a whip. He doesn't deserve to suffer for his parents' mistakes. Later that night, I stood on my penthouse balcony, the penthouse that used to be Glenn Sr.'s, now mine, looking out over Lake Michigan. Marcus brought me wine. "How you feeling, Mrs. G?" he asked. "Like justice," I said. "It feels like justice." He wrapped an arm around my shoulders and I leaned into him. This good man, this honest man who'd help me when he didn't have to, who'd fought for me when no one else would. You know, I spent almost 40 years with the wrong man. Maybe it's time to try again with the right one. Marcus smiled, that beautiful, genuine smile. "Mrs. G, are you asking me out?" "I'm 64 years old, Marcus Hayes. I don't have time for games. I'm saying I like you. I'm saying I trust you. And I'm saying I'd like to see where this goes." He kissed my forehead. "Then let's see where it goes." The foundation helped 847 women in our first 6 months, recovered $23 million in stolen assets, put 14 abusers in prison, and every single day women message me, "Thank you. You gave me hope. You showed me I can fight back." As for Glenn, once a year, on our fake anniversary, I send him a postcard from wherever I'm vacationing. Last year, Bora Bora. This year, Italy. Next year, maybe the Maldives. Just a little reminder of everything he could have had if he'd been a decent human being. People ask if I'm bitter, if the money makes up for almost 40 years of lost. Honestly, no. Nothing gives me back that time. But here's what I learned. I'm stronger than I knew, smarter than he believed, and I'm not alone. They say living well is the best revenge, but I say living better and helping others live better too, that's the ultimate revenge. Glenn took almost 40 years. I'm taking the next 40 back. And sugar, I'm just getting started. So here's my final message. If you're in a situation like mine, whether you're 50, 60, 70, or older, hear me loud and clear. You are not too old. You are not too weak. You are not helpless. Men like Glenn count on us being afraid, being ashamed, being quiet. Well, I'm 64 years old. I survived the south side of Chicago, and I'm loud as hell. This grandma doesn't just get mad. She gets even. She gets everything. Subscribe if you believe in karma, justice, and the power of a woman who's had enough. Share this with every woman who needs to hear it. And comment below, what would you have done in my shoes? Because karma might be slow, honey, but she's always on time. And this grandma, I've got her on speed dial. They can take your money, they can take your years, but they can never, ever take your fight. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a foundation to run, a good man to love, and a whole new life to live. Glenn's in prison eating mystery meatloaf while I'm sipping champagne on a yacht. And that, sugar, is what we call poetic justice. Thank you so much for listening. See you in our next story.